Guys, I was wrong. Weug is winning the championship. Hello, and welcome back to Shh, the Girls Are Racing. My name is Miranda, and today we are going to be talking about F1 Academy Zandvoort, the round that's just passed. F1 Academy fans have been waiting for the return of the series for quite a few months now. We've been waiting since Canada, which I think was in June. I don't even remember, but basically, we've been waiting for ages. It's finally back. It was a really, really exciting weekend. Before we get into the races and everything that happened, I guess you can tell by this different setup. I'm actually at home today with my parents, so there might be some noises in the background. I don't know what this mic can pick up. I don't even know if it picks up me talking, but anyway, I've just got my laptop propped up really precariously and I'm sort of just chilling here, and I still have my notes. I have my notes of the race that I always make, but I'm thinking I'm not really gonna go through it line by line like I normally do. Instead, today I actually want to focus a little bit on like the storylines of the weekend. I think there were some amazing things that happened, so I kind of want to flow through it in a bit of like a narrative way instead of just kind of really analytically focusing on everything that happened. And yeah, I'm sitting on the couch. This is a bit more of a chill chit chat race review than what I normally do, but yeah, I just thought we could literally talk about the weekend. It was so exciting. But just before we get into everything about the Dutch Grand Prix, I will say that this past weekend I also attended my first ever track day, my first ever races, because at Sydney Motorsport Park they were holding a bunch of races on. There was a Holden Trophy, an RX8 Cup, and the AU4 Championship, which is like Australian F4. Now, this was so exciting. I literally have never been to a race before. I've never been to a motorsport park. So that was just really, really exciting for me. And I filmed a bit of a vlog. It's a short vlog. It just has a little couple of minutes of me talking about my experience and going there and seeing everything. So I will post that eventually. It was just filmed on my phone, but I will post that eventually. But this comes first, okay? So just before we get into qualifying, one of the stories of the weekend was Nina Gademan. And just before qualifying, she was declared unfit to go out in FP2 and get some practice laps in. That was insane. She was medically deemed unfit. So there was something that went on there. And I'm going to be honest, it's personal medical information for her. So I don't really want to speculate about what exactly or what the reason was that she was unfit. Like her specific medical information. I know some fans were trying to figure out the exact reason why that had happened. I don't really think that's up to me to, like, push on, I guess. I only saw some things that was just like, it could be an ongoing issue with her back resulting from that crash in Jeddah that also was bothering her in Canada, that she had mentioned in the post race of, I think it was race 2, which was the reverse grid of Canada. So it could have been about that ongoing back issue, but it very well could have been something else. And I don't really think that's for us to actually know because it barred her from joining in FP2, but she was then declared fit after further checks, and so she went ahead to participate in qualifying and the races. Okay, but now we can get into everything and on to qualifying. So I feel like qualifying in Zandvoort was like actually pretty normal. It had been raining earlier in the day, but the track was drying up as they were qualifying. So I think that that would have been a big talking point, except for the fact that the track did dry up and we did get some relatively good times. I will note, I have down here that Maya Weug took pole in 1 minute 38.8, which is interesting because I'm fairly certain that the F1 Academy lap record is 136 or even lower. I'll correct myself on screen. But basically, I think it's interesting that we didn't actually get down to those numbers. But I do think that would be primarily because even though the track was drying up, a lot of girls didn't get to have their last laps. So we didn't see if that time could get lower. But I also think to that extent that it's possible that whilst the track is drying up, you're not actually getting that track evolution that you would normally see when the track is dry. I don't know if that's a fact, that's just my speculation that the evolution doesn't really occur, and so maybe that's why it was a bit slower. But anyway, I thought it was relatively normal with the way it did ramp up, and eventually Maya Weug did take pole. It was quite incredible. Chloe Chambers didn't get her last lap in. We know she's been a qualifying queen this year, so I think that was, who knows what could have happened if Chloe had her final lap. but Maya had an absolutely incredible, so impressive performance. So her on pole, it was just full beast mode from her. And she continued to be on an insane another level for the whole weekend, in my opinion. She just, after the setbacks in Montreal, she just completely stepped it up, showed everyone why she's a title contender, which I feel like everyone, including myself a little bit, were forgetting. Because of Maya's car issues in Montreal, I felt like we had kind of forgotten how good she is because we just hadn't seen it, and that's through no fault of her own. But she came to the Dutch Grand Prix with a vengeance and showed us exactly why she belongs at the top. And she very well could take the title this year. If we see what we saw in the Netherlands, then God help Dorian and Chloe. But anyway, there were still some interesting things that happened in qualifying. Notably, right at the start, Nicole Havrida hit Ava Anagnostiadis, who is actually her high-tech teammate, and that actually ruled Ava out of qualifying, so she had to start at the back for both races, and she got no qualifying laps in. So that was insane because her car got beached in the gravel. I think it was at turn 1, and yeah, if you can't move it, then they have to take you out, and that's you done, right? And it was insane, and her radio message was really funny. I'll see if I can find her radio message, but basically she was not happy that Nicole had hit her. And those two are known to be quite close. Like Ava has said on a podcast, I think it was, that they're pretty good, solid teammates and have a good relationship. So I think that was that was very unexpected, and that was a pretty crazy thing to happen between teammates, and you don't want to see it happen, but it's just a wet track that was drying. Like, sometimes these things just happen. But yeah, that took her out of qualifying, which is really unfortunate. As an Aussie, I'm always rooting for her, so that sucked to see, but yeah, it is what it is in qualifying when everyone's pushing and mistakes happen, I guess. I have to say, I did think it was kind of funny that when Ava went off, the commentators immediately jumped to say, oh, she's, like, not good, and that's why she went off, like, oh, she misjudged the corner, like, blah, blah, blah. And then they watched the replay and they were like, oh, she got hit. It was like, guys, why did you immediately jump to that conclusion? Like, that's not very nice. Because they saw the replay and immediately had to correct themselves. They just guessed that she, like, hadn't done a good job and had gone off by herself before they'd even seen it. I thought that was a bit silly, but there was also a red flag when Aurelia Nobles went off. I can't remember. I will correct myself on screen. I can't remember if she actually ended up not being able to complete qualifying or not. But basically the session was red flagged for when she went off, and I think she also got stuck in the gravel too. I think she was not able to continue, but I will confirm that. Because people weren't really able to do their last lap, seeing Chloe end up P4 and Dorian end up P5, I thought that was just crazy. Like, it was just so different to how Canada went, and even Miami too to some extent. And it felt like such a flip. But to that extent, it really feels like Maya has, like, flipped the switch on her performance and just skyrocketed to a new level, and everyone else is going to have to play catch up, and if they don't, the title might come relatively easy to her. But by the end of qualifying, what we saw was a Dutch lockout, essentially, because Maya Weug was going to be starting in pole, and then for the reverse grid race, Nina Gaideman, who had secured P8 in qualifying, would be starting on pole. I honestly think this was really exciting, it being both their home races, that something like this could happen. And yeah, I think it made automatically the storylines of the weekend just, like, lock into place that we were going to see something very exciting. And to that extent, I also want to mention the wildcard, Esme Kosterman. She killed it, but we'll talk about that later. But she qualified P9. No wildcard has done that well yet this year. And it was just incredible. And, you know, my face was on the car. I'll put up pictures. My face was on the car, so, you know, I helped. I helped Esme. I did nothing. I couldn't have done less. But honestly, it was an incredible performance from her. The best wildcard we've seen this year, actually. And it was just so impressive to get out there, to not be with these teams the rest of the year. She does, I believe, F4 the rest of the year. And for her to just come in and do as well as she did, I think that speaks really well for her performance. And I also think we could easily see her in a full-time seat next year, because we know that F1 Academy sometimes sources their drivers from wildcards, as we've seen with Alicia and Ella, for example. And I really think she is a shoe-in for a full-time seat. And yeah, there's nothing more to be said except that her performance was insane. It was incredible. And yeah, just to say that she kind of did some testing, rocked up on the weekend and completely outperformed like half the grid. I thought that was incredible. It was so impressive from her. So, on to race one, I feel like there are a few really key things that happened, and then we can talk about Nina's epic win at the end. But if we just want to go through the race a little bit, Leah's first podium. That was so exciting. And it wasn't like gifted to her in any way. She was battling with Maya Weug for a good, I want to say it was 4 laps, but it very well could have been more. But the most intense battling for at least 3 or 4 laps. She got that all on her own merit of holding off one of the best drivers in the series. And it was just incredible from her. It's quite, in my opinion, it's the best driving we've seen from her all year, if not from all her time in F1 Academy so far. And it shows just how much she's improved and how incredible she is. I don't know, that was just like some serious talent. I thought she was incredible. And I like to think that Jamie Chadwick being there gave her a little bit of magic. I love Jamie Chadwick. I think she's so cool. And it's really cool that she's like a mentor for Leah at Williams. I was just so impressed with Leah. And since watching the Netflix series from last year's season, or about last year's season, I've wanted to see her on the podium so bad. And it wasn't a P3, it was a P2 that she fought for with like pure racecraft against, literally, I keep saying it, but literally one of the best racers in the series, who was, as I said, on another level. And she was in full beast attack mode. But for Leah to hold her off, to defend like she did, it was beautiful racing. It was just so good. And I couldn't believe it. I was so happy for her. I honestly cried a little bit. To be fair, it was at 1 a.m. the race, so maybe that played a part. But I just felt so emotional for her because she's had such a journey and it was literally incredible. So happy for Leah Block. An unbelievable performance. Yeah, I have here written down that the time in lap 15 was going down to 0.3 seconds, 0.2 seconds between Leah and Maya Weug. Like, that is insane that she held that off for however many laps it was. Like, just watching the times get closer together on the leaderboard, it freaked me out. And I was so nervous for her because Maya was just on different sauce this weekend. Like, she really just was. Like, she ate her Wheat Bix that morning. It just felt like she was a cut above the rest. So for Leah to hold on the way she did, just incredible. Simply incredible. Another thing to really touch on is Tina's DNF. It just seemed like from the replays a bit of a silly mistake, and then she went off, hit the barriers, and that was that. She was the only DNF from the whole weekend because Chloe was a DNS. But yeah, it just seemed like a silly mistake. It is a bit of a shame. She's in her second year. I don't really think she should be making those mistakes, but at the same time, I feel like it really can happen to anyone, and we've seen it kind of happen to a lot of different people this year. So sometimes these things just happen, and I feel like she did learn from it because she did quite well in race 2. But yeah, that was really the only like proper incident that happened. Like, there was some occasions I think where the escape road needed to be used, especially on like turn 1, but generally it was like a very clean race apart from that DNF. Esme also, after qualifying P9, was dealt such a blow. She was called into the pits by her team. I think it ended up being because her tyre pressures were like off, and so they needed to fix it. But that meant she had to start from pit lane. That was kind of devastating because she had qualified P9. Like, she was gonna score points. I had faith, but yeah, she did end up having an incredible race still. I think she ended P12. It was either P11 or P12, but she was pretty close to the points for a reverse grid race and from starting from pit lane. Like, that's an incredible performance. But I felt so bad for her being at that disadvantage after qualifying so well. Watching on YouTube, it seemed like there were a ton of fans there at race 1, which I thought was really cool because they got to see Aurelia Noble's incredible overtakes. I think she gained 10 positions. I'm pretty sure that's what the Instagram of F1 Academy said. She was at the very least the person who gained the most positions. I think she ended just outside of the points, which is so disappointing because she really, in my opinion, deserved to be rewarded for that incredible performance. Like, we were seeing some insane turn 1 overtakes, and then there were plenty that weren't caught by the cameras. But Aurelia, like, seriously, she was showing some incredible racecraft out there, and I was like, she's had such an unlucky and hard season, but it just showed like she is incredibly talented. She deserves to be here, and yeah, just so impressive from her to see those overtakes. Like, given that these cars are slower and they're all spec, so they're all the exact same, I feel like the racecraft if the driver has it, really comes out a lot more. And yeah, she definitely showed that, in my opinion. She showed some serious talent. But before we get to the very big part of race 1, what I've been alluding to is Maya Weug's incredible performance all weekend, but especially in race 1. She overtook Ella Lloyd for that P3, which she then held on to and even attacked for P2, but ended up in P3. Ella was battling with her, and I feel like she really did take the fight to Maya. Like, I thought Ella was incredible in race 1, but she just wasn't able to hold off Maya Weug. Maya Weug was literally on smoke. Like she was just insanely good this weekend. I know she's talented. I know she's incredible, but it just felt like she was on a whole different level from everyone else this weekend. And I know there were some things like, not being able to finish quali laps and like all these things, but it doesn't matter. Maya just stood out from the rest this weekend. Like, seriously, an incredible performance in both races and in qualifying. But yes, race 1, she eventually overtook Ella and managed to catch all the way up to Leah and quite literally almost overtook Leah for P2, but Leah was just really good at defending in this case. When they cut to the camera on her car, just watching like her helmet sparkle in the sun, I was like, she's the chosen one. I was like, guys, she's gonna destroy you all. And she kind of did in a way. Like, it was just an incredible performance from Maya. Like, I don't know what else to really say. Like, she was just incredible. I literally have written in my notes, beast mode Maya Weug, because it really was. It was just incredible. And to see Ferrari do so well when they're not in F1, double DNF, moderately okay qualifying, and then you have Maya Weug sticking it on pole, winning a race and coming P3 in the other race. Like, which, by the way, she started in P8. She started it in P8, and she got to P3. I know she's just that good, but I'm just trying to figure out, like, maybe just because of her technical issues in Montreal, I just forgot how good she is. But she'd only won one race this season so far, and so it's just easy to forget how talented she is, but she's so good. I literally felt like she was just in a league of her own this weekend, and that is saying something given how talented we know racers like Doriane and Chloe Chambers are. For her to just be just on that level, it was just, it was immense. It was immense. I was locked in, I was engaged, and I was on the edge of my seat. Now to the major story of, dare I say, the entire weekend. Nina Gademan won the race. Now, I know she started on pole, and I know that Maya and Leah's battling let her run away with it. I know that. But Nina Gademan had such a special day when she won her first F1 Academy race. So, let me just set the scene for you. Now, I know this has gone a bit viral, so everyone probably knows, but let me just set the scene. It was her birthday, her 22nd birthday. It was the 1-year anniversary of her being a wild card at the Dutch Grand Prix, where she was the first wild card to score points last season. She had never won an F1 Academy race before. She, the day prior, had been declared medically unfit to compete in the entire round. It was only when further checks were undertaken that she was cleared and able to participate in qualifying and get that P8. After so many setbacks, to do what she did at home, to win her first race, incredible, speechless. I had tears in my eyes. I think everyone had tears in their eyes. I think F1 Academy or F1 or something literally posted on Instagram being like, not a dry tear in the house. And yes, I was crying. It was just so special. It felt so special. It's just incredible. She didn't put a foot wrong. And after Montreal, where she was leading the entire reverse grid race all up until the last corner of the last lap because of a safety car, she got overtaken and ended up in P3. It felt like she got robbed a bit there. And she was also leading the reverse grid race in the first race of the entire season in Shanghai. And then she had another issue after a safety car, and her car just slowed down, and she ended up almost last, I think, after leading the whole race, by the way. So she's had setback after setback, especially related to her injury. And the way that she has just come back from that, not let the back injury get in her way, she's completely defied the odds. It was just so special. It was really incredible and so emotional for all F1 Academy fans, I think, as well as for her and her family. But yeah, I love seeing the podium where Nina was crying and stuff, and to be honest, it was literally so special when she got interviewed. You know how the top 3 get interviewed, or maybe it was just Nina in the first race, get interviewed post-race just to be oh, how was it and stuff. But the presenter was do you want to say anything to the crowd, expecting her to speak in Dutch, right? And then she just said something to the effect of, Mum, wherever you are, I want to see you later. And I literally almost started sobbing. I was like, oh my God. But then the presenter was like, do you want to say anything in Dutch? And she got to speak to her home fans and they were roaring, they were cheering for her. It was so special. It was so emotional and just incredible. And also, something kind of funny that I figured I would put up on the screen is Flavio was seen filming her on a TV when she had won the race, and he had like put up a story being like, congratulations, Nina. Obviously, the team principal of Alpine. He didn't manage to make it to the podium, but I thought that was like a nice gesture. But I will say, Leah's first podium as well, like, it was just so wholesome. And Jamie being there to celebrate it with her, like, just so special. Especially, sorry, because it's Alpine's first win of the season, first podium of the season, and also Williams' first and only podium of the season. So, guys, you gotta celebrate accordingly when these girls cook for your midfield teams. Anyway, I thought it was a little bit funny. Leah had never been on a podium before. She had her hat on during the start of the Dutch national anthem, and I think someone below managed to tell her to just take it off because she quickly like took it. But it was very funny. It's like when you don't really know how podiums go because you've never been on one before. But yeah, I just thought that was really funny. And during the champagne spray, Leah chased Maya off the podium, and they just went somewhere else. I don't even know where they ended up, but they had a whole thing. And then Nina was able to spray the crowd, and I don't know. I just thought the whole thing was so wholesome and really, really special. So on to race 2, which had a few talking points, but I don't necessarily think that it was the race of the round. It wasn't the big news of Zandvoort for F1 Academy, if that makes sense. I know there are some important things that happened, but after how awesome and special race 1 was, it didn't feel like race 2 was that big of a deal, even though it is the feature race. But there are a few key things to talk about. Chloe Chambers' DNS. Her car would not start. That was insane. She was going to try and start from pit lane, I think, and then they couldn't fix it. And I think Alicia even mentioned in the cooldown room there was an issue with a camera battery or something. But either way, whatever did happen, it completely changed the whole landscape of the championship race in the span of about 1 minute. Sorry, we're getting serious for this. This was quite insane because Chloe lost out on so many points. It's hard to articulate, like, just the impact of that. But then to that extent, Maya Weug also lost out on all those points in Montreal, so it's like, is this a great leveler? Is Dorian going to have No, touch wood, I didn't say that. But it just changed everything in the span of a few minutes. It was insane for her to just have to walk to the pits, and I think she was quite upset as well. But she eventually joined the engineers and sort of like was looking at the race of her teammates. But yeah, I would say there's not so much to be said about a DNS except that it has just dramatically changed the championship battle, in my opinion, because she missed out on, I guess, a whole possible of 25 points. Like, I know she was in P4, but her getting up to P1 was not that unrealistic. At the very least, she missed out on a podium. So, I don't know. I think that's going to have an impact, but we won't quite know the full impact of it just yet until we kind of maybe even get to the last round of the season. But also, her DNS and having her car wheeled off meant that Leah started in the wrong spot, in the wrong box, and Nina, the snitch, she was so quick on the radio to say something, which, fair enough. Leah did reverse, but unfortunately, from what I understood, is the starting procedure had already started, so even though the lights hadn't gone out or anything, even though she returned to her original grid box, it wasn't good enough. So she got, I think it was a 5-second penalty for that. Oh, it was a 10-second penalty. Whoa. Yeah, that's tough. That really killed her vibe for race 2, especially after a podium. Like, it's such a shame. But the fact that she tried to fix it, then I was so frustrated for her. But I do get that once the procedure has been initiated, once it has started, you can't do anything about it. Blah blah blah. She was just on a different level, and I know I keep talking about that, but you all start, at the grid boxes. She started on pole position. She ended the race with an over 5-second margin to second place, and these races aren't that long. I'm fairly certain, if you tripled the race by 3 times, that's 15 or 20 seconds that she had an advantage. So that is the F1 Academy equivalent of domination, a 5-second margin to P2. It was just insane. She had quite literally a very quiet race because she just kept going on and on once she got into P1 and really solidified her spot there. Yeah, it was just insane. And as I said, she had a pretty quiet race, so there's nothing much to be said about it except that it was extremely impressive and that she was just incredible. And this can mean a lot for the championship battle, because if she performs like that again somewhere else, then, good luck to everyone else. Good luck, because I don't know what else you can do if she's going to be just in a league of her own like she was in the Netherlands. And I will say, home race win for her as well in the feature race, so 25 points and an incredible drive in front of all her home fans. Like, that just has to mean so much. It's so special. And by the way, after all of that, no Fred Vasseur at the podium. Dude, she's the only one in Ferrari who's doing anything. She's the only one cooking for your team. Like, come on! Guys, where's the support? She's literally holding down the fort for all of you. Alba Larson had like duct tape sticking off her front wing for like the entire race. I don't know what happened there. I don't know if that was to try and like fix what had happened in race 1 when she got the black and orange flag. But I was like, what the heck is that? But anyway, she seemed to do fine without it. I think she ended up in the points. I'll correct myself if I didn't, but I think she ended up around P9 or 10. Ella Lloyd also got a penalty, except hers was 5 seconds, because I think the technical term is jumping the start. But basically, she moved forward ever so slightly, but she didn't leave her grid box or anything. She didn't like move actually before the lights went out. But apparently, once the starting procedure is like engaged, you can't actually move until the lights go out. So her tiny little roll meant that she needed to have a penalty, but that did push Doriane up onto the podium, which I think that definitely helped her with the championship standings, especially because she was lacking quite a bit of pace this weekend. So I think that definitely helped Ella Lloyd getting that penalty. That definitely helped Doriane. So there was some insane battling going on between like P10, P12, the sort of midfield area of the race, and it especially heated up once Leah got that penalty, because I think it was pretty clear that she wasn't going to be able to get like a 10-second gap. I think that then became all the more fierce of a battle, and it became sort of something that I kept an eye on throughout the race. I was under the impression that Courtney Crone was going to score her first points. I was so excited. They're called Croints, by the way. I was so excited because she was running P11 and it looked like Leah was going to get knocked out of the top 10. But unfortunately, she was battling so crazy with Alba, who then overtook her, and I think someone else overtook her as well, which kind of firmly put her outside of that points, it was so sad because I wrote down here like Courtney Crone points, but it just wasn't meant to be this race. But she has 4 more races to get those points, and then maybe even next year. So it's not the end of the world, but yeah, she was so close. Even without the points, it was a good race from her, because we've definitely seen some mistakes throughout the year so far, but I feel like this was good competition from Courtney Crone. So it's really good. It's so nice to see races like improve as well, because that's the whole point of a junior development series. That's why it's like a development series. So yeah, I don't know. It's just really nice to see. My other big talking point from this race was Esme. Esme, Killer Queen, Costaman. I hope I said that right. She obviously raced for High Tech because all the wildcards race for High Tech. And High Tech now has 12 points. She scored 6 of them in one race because she came P7 in the feature race. That is incredible. She scored half of High Tech's points. Like, how can I stress that enough, that is just an incredible performance from her. Again, a wild card coming in with like very little experience, especially compared to all the other girls who've been racing in the series the whole year. And it is Esme's home Grand Prix as well, so I feel like that must have helped a little bit, because I think she is relatively familiar with Zandvoort because of F4 and also just from being Dutch, I guess. But she really killed it. She was so impressive. So she climbed from P9 where she qualified and was able to start in P9, and she climbed up to P7. Like, what an impressive showing. It was just so exciting. And my face was on the car, so I helped. I need to stop making that joke because I think people are going to think I'm serious. I was just so excited to be on the car. I just thought it was such a cool initiative, and Esme did it so much justice. She brought it to life, the whole concept, and her scoring points was just so incredible, so impressive. And I'm really, really happy for her. I really feel like she deserves a full-time seat next year. And if anything shows that, then it was race 2 and even race 1, but the points in race 2, like, really, really excellent showing from her. In terms of oopsies of the weekend, Emma Felbermeyer had a spin, which kind of put her all the way down to the back of the pack almost, I think. That was just unfortunate because it literally was just a small error. She wasn't, from what I could see in the replay, she wasn't like hit or anything. So it was just a bit of an error where she was carrying a bit too much speed, I think, into one of the turns. So that was unfortunate, but you know, these things happen, and no one's race was particularly damaged by it, so... And the other oopsie would be when Alicia went off, actually. Like, she was in P2, and she had a moment where the car went, whoa, like, because I think she hit a bit of the dirt, as she went a little bit outside the track limits. But she saved it. It was incredible. And really, really good car control from her to have saved that, and to have made it to P2. Really, really excellent from her. She's obviously won a race in Shanghai, but she's had consistent podiums. A tough weekend in Montreal where she was kind of pushing the limits a bit too far meant that she lost the rookie championship standings position to Ella Lloyd, who is still currently leading the rookies. But Alicia has been so impressive. She's been really, really good. But I will say they sprayed champagne right into Alicia's eyes and she could barely open them for the podium photo. I felt so bad for her. I think the commentators were like, she must have contacts on or something because she could not get the champagne out of her eyes. And I don't know what those photos look like, but it was a bit of a tough time for her trying to just open her eyes after being doused with champagne by Dorianne and Maya. And I will say, Maya Dutch winning the feature race at home, the crowd were going feral because that is a hometown hero right there, winning the race. Like, that was just incredible. It was very special. I guess the last thing to say is that Abba Larson did end up getting points in the second race, which was really good, really impressive. She was pulling some insane moves, some really good overtakes. The one on Courtney Crone comes to mind, that she's just so daring. She gets her elbows out. She's never afraid to take the competition, to take the race to some of the more experienced girls, and we've seen that throughout the whole season. But she's always willing to go for the gap, and she's only 16, so I can only imagine that that kind of fearlessness and that kind of talent will continue to develop, and she will just continue to be someone really, really exciting to watch. She's just incredible, and some of those overtakes were really, really exciting. So I think we finally come to the end of this race review, finally. The championship has blown wide open. Chloe didn't start the feature race. Maya Weug was on smoke and Dorianne was lacking pace. So what is going to happen in the next 2 rounds? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I'm so excited and I can't believe the season only has 2 more rounds to go. It's been an incredible season so far. I've been so happy following along and just having so much fun, especially connecting with other F1 Academy fans. That's just been so exciting. So thank you so much for watching and I'll see you later.